The debate to regulate carbon emissions and a tale of two chickens that help explain the cost and science behind carbon footprints.
We're reaching out to people who have never even voted. We're reaching out to people who aren't even registered.
If we were to discover that one of whoever is elected would ignore Kensington, there would be a rumpus.
One wealthy neighborhood in San Diego had a major say in who represents an entire city council district until now. The San Diego race that may be changing the makeup of political power. And a 125-pound baby making his debut at the San Diego Zoo. The hope for an endangered species and the connection to his birth. This is Evening Edition on KPBS. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. San Diego residents could get more input on the future of the nation's spent nuclear fuel if a local congressman gets his way. KPBS reporter Eric Anderson has more on the questions raised about what happens next to all the nuclear material.
San Diego Congressman Darrell Issa wants the Department of Energy to agree to have a meeting here in San Diego County. They're already having 6 more meetings in different locations around the West to talk about what to do about spent nuclear fuel rods. There are more than 3 million pounds of spent rods at San Onofre. Issa says that's in his district, so people in his district should get a chance to put their opinions forward and to give their input on what should be done to fix that problem.
Cost of maintaining it where it is, safety of maintaining it where it is, cost of transporting it, preparing and transporting it to, hypothetically, Texas, and the savings, long-term savings and safety. Because that's really what we're doing. We're not questioning whether this material is going to be around for 10,000 years. We're questioning where it will be, whether it will be safer where it is or safer somewhere else, and how we're going to pay for it.
It's not clear whether the Department of Energy will be able to reschedule an extra location here in San Diego to talk about the issue of what to do with spent nuclear fuel rods. But the Department of Energy is sending a representative to decommissioning talks that are centered on the San Onofre nuclear power plant, so they are getting some idea of what the local issues are. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
They're reporting for duty in the Middle East. A San Diego-based Amphibious Ready group arrived today. The USS Boxer is part of the group carrying 4,500 sailors and Camp Pendleton-based members of the 13th Marine Expeditionary Unit. Also on board, choppers from Helicopter Sea Combat Squadron 23, which is based at North Island Naval Air Station. Navy officials say the group will participate in theater security operations and support Operation Inherent Resolve, the campaign to defeat the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria. San Diego is home to nearly 250,000 veterans, and as they age, inevitably they pass on. KPBS reporter Matt Bowler tells us how the Department of Veterans Affairs is making room for their graves.
We only have 72 acres of the 313 developed, so as you can see, we have a lot more room to expand.
Rex Kern, director of the Miramar National Cemetery, sounds more like a property developer than a cemetery director.
We try to make sure that when we do our plantings of our landscape, that we're looking at California native species, that we're looking at drought-tolerant plants, things of that nature to kind of keep it that look.
Kern says every year about 4,000 veterans are laid to rest at Miramar.
Rosecrans, as beautiful as it is completely buried out. There's no more room for that. It's a great venue for Memorial Day and certain events, but the burials will happen here at Miramar National Cemetery from here on out.
In about 40 years, when Miramar is full, there will be more than 160,000 graves here. Any veteran honorably discharged has a right to a spot, assuming they pass before the cemetery fills up.
We don't want anybody to rush out here. We're here for a long time.
Miramar National Cemetery is expected to be at capacity around the year 2050. Matt Bowler, KPBS News.
Disasters can strike at any time, and having an evacuation plan in place can save lives. Public safety and business leaders unveiled such a plan today for the Sorrento Valley business community. The mass evacuation plan will prepare businesses in the densely high-tech and biotech areas to act in case of a mass regional evacuation.
They know the tools and resources that are available to them, as well as exit and entry guides to make sure that we're all on the same page when it comes to being prepared for when a disaster occurs.
Council member Chris Cate says the plan will also serve as a model for future community emergency planning. The guide details evacuation routes, emergency phone numbers, as well as social media and radio stations dedicated to emergency information. A San Diego City Council committee is considering a proposal today to ban curbside parking along 8 busy blocks in downtown San Diego. The proposal would ban parking on 5th Avenue between Broadway and Harbor Drive on Friday and Saturday nights between 8 and 3 a.m. Backers hope the plan will relieve traffic congestion in the Gaslamp Quarter, making it safer for drivers and pedestrians. In the race for the White House, a winning night for the underdogs. Losses in Wisconsin had the frontrunners scrambling for support today. Associated Press reporter John Moan says there will be more heated contests ahead of the party conventions.
Wisconsin voters put a dent in both parties' frontrunners' presidential plans. Texas Senator Ted Cruz won the Badger State's Republican primary, finishing far ahead of Donald Trump.
Tonight, Wisconsin has lit a candle guiding the way forward. Tonight, we once again have hope for the future.
Over the past few weeks, conservative activists in the state worked hard to deny Trump a victory and hand delegates to Cruz.
As a result of the people of Wisconsin defying the media, defying the pundits, I am more and more convinced that our campaign is going to earn the 1,237 delegates needed to win the Republican nomination.
But earlier Tuesday, the billionaire businessman maintained Cruz couldn't get the delegates to win the nomination.
Well, Ted Cruz can't win. There's no way he can get the delegates, and everybody has said that. All of your friends and everybody that I've watched has said that it's impossible, almost impossible, for Ted Cruz to win. So he would have to get it at the convention, which I think would be highly unlikely.
Strong voter turnout helped Bernie Sanders win big with Wisconsin Democrats.
With our victory tonight in Wisconsin, we have now won 7 out of 8 of the last caucuses and primaries.
From a campaign stop in Wyoming, Sanders said his latest victory further damages Hillary Clinton's frontrunner status.
But I believe we've got an excellent chance to win New York and a lot of delegates in that state.
But the path for a Sanders nomination is very narrow. Secretary Clinton still has a major delegate lead, and her comments Tuesday at a campaign stop in New York show she's looking ahead to the general election.
Too many voices out there, too many people are trying to divide Americans against Americans. I wish they'd all come to New York and spend time. And the fellow who's from New York, I wish he'd get out of one of his towers and actually walk the streets and spend time with the people of this city.
Cruz's Wisconsin victory means the delegate math gets even more complicated for Trump to have an outright victory for the party's nomination. That means the chances are even higher the grand old party will host a contested convention this summer. John Moan, Associated Press, Milwaukee.
He's hitting up the political ATM in the Golden State. President Barack Obama will be in L.A. tomorrow. He's taking a quick trip for a pair of big dollar fundraisers, one on Thursday night and one on Friday morning. After that, the president is expected to head up to San Francisco. One wealthy and mostly white San Diego neighborhood has effectively chosen who represents an entire city council district, a district that's more than 50% Latino. As part of our California Counts election coverage, KPBS reporter Claire Tregesser explains why other voters may be drawn to the polls this year.
City Council candidate Sarah Saez is decorating her campaign office. She's got the typical red, white, and blue posters emblazoned with her name. But she also has handwritten notes from supporters, some in Spanish.
Ella apoya a los maestros.
And what does that mean?
She supports the teachers.
Saez is running to represent a district that's more than 50% Latino and 23% white. It makes sense that she'd have campaign material in other languages. All the major city council candidates in this district are Latino, and they either grew up in or live now in City Heights. That neighborhood is nothing like Kensington. It's majority Latino, almost half its residents are foreign-born, and its voter turnout was under 30% in the last general election.
Well, I'm hoping that it will get our youth excited about being able to see people that look like them running for positions that bring power to this community.
Norma Sandoval is a community organizer from City Heights working to get out the vote there. 4 years ago, white incumbent Marty Emerald beat a Latino for the council seat. She isn't running for re-election this year. Now Sandoval is hoping candidates with the names Saez, Gomez, and Flores will draw in new voters.
You know, they would understand where we're coming from instantly.
Mohammed Osman is 18 and lives in City Heights. His family is from Somalia, and he says it means a lot to be able to vote for someone who isn't white.
We wouldn't have to speak in a way because they know where we're coming from, the low income, and you know how it feels to be in a struggle for a while.
People who've had similar struggles just get it, he says. Less than a mile from Osman's home is a small park in the heart of Kensington. Council candidate Ricardo Flores grew up in City Heights, but he and his new wife now live in an apartment a block away.
For me, Kensington holds a special place in my heart.
Flores says he moved there not to reach Kensington voters, but because it's a good place to raise children. Although he's Latino, Flores says he's not focusing his campaign on that.
When you're building a park, when you're building a fire station, when you're repairing a sidewalk, adding street lights, I think at the end of the day, you're not just appealing to one group, you're appealing to everybody.
Judy McDonald has lived in Kensington for 45 years. She's white and she doesn't care whether her council rep is from her neighborhood. But
if we got ignored or if we didn't get police coverage or fire coverage or if lights were out, the people of Kensington know how to make their voice heard.
Back in her City Heights office, Sarah Saez says it takes a lot of work to campaign across the council district's diverse neighborhoods.
We're reaching out to people who have never even voted, reaching out to people who aren't even registered.
She's spending time with City Heights voters who have been ignored in the past.
If we continue to only reach out to Kensington and Talmadge, it's eroding our democracy because these voters become stronger, and the ones we continue to ignore give up on the system.
Still, we know the mostly white residents of Kensington will turn out to vote. In June, we'll find out whether other parts of the district add their voices to the election results. Claire Tregesser, KPBS News.
And KPBS video journalist Nick McVicker helped produce that story. A brush fire racing out of control jumped the Colorado River from Arizona and forced California residents out of their homes today. Witnesses say it was like watching a wall of flames. The pirate fire started in Havasu National Wildlife Refuge early this morning. It spans both states. RV parks in the Mojave Desert were evacuated as firefighters on both sides of the river worked to surround the flames. It has burned at least 550 acres and it's about 5% contained. Advocacy groups are accusing the U.S. Border Patrol of looting immigrants of their possessions and sending them to Mexico without their IDs or money. The ACLU of New Mexico and other organizations filed a complaint with Homeland Security today. They allege these seizures are putting migrants at the U.S.-Mexico border in harm's way. The state's largest public pension system may reconsider its ban on tobacco company investments. A consultant for the California Public Employees Retirement System says the 15-year-old ban has cost the fund $3 billion on lost profits. But anti-tobacco activists are furious.
The tobacco industry is one that kills 6 million people a year. It costs Californians $18 billion a year in health costs and lost productivity, including over $3 billion to state taxpayers alone for Medi-Cal. And this is an industry we should be investing in? Absolutely not.
This comes at a time where California is now required to account for its unfunded pension liabilities in the state budget, a $176 billion debt. CalPERS will be discussing the plan in an upcoming committee meeting. Fashion models are off the runway today, demanding more employee rights in California. There is a new bill that would guarantee models many of the benefits they currently cannot access, such as minimum wage. And modeling agencies would be placed under the rules and regulations of the state's Occupational Safety and Health Standards Board.
So OSHA will be engaging in a very public process with stakeholders to determine what those workplace safety recommendations would be, those guidelines would be. So there is a process for all of that to be determined.
And the bill's supporters say some 40% of models suffer from eating disorders and many experience sexual harassment on the job. 3 San Diego County students were recognized today for their outstanding contributions to their communities. They received congressional awards from Congressman Darrell Issa. The students completed work in volunteering, personal development, physical fitness, and exploration. Samuel Sugarman from Encinitas won a gold medal. Sissy Sugarman, also from Encinitas, won a bronze. And Luke Lindgren from Rancho Santa Fe also won a bronze. The American Heart Association is touting the benefits of ditching your desk for a few minutes a day and going for a walk. They're hosting National Walking Day events all over the country today, including here in San Diego at the County Administration Building.
It's important for people to walk because every little step can really improve your health.
The Heart Association says that heart disease is the nation's #1 killer and inactivity is a leading risk factor. So it's dry for now in San Diego, but keep that sweater handy. Steph Davis has more on a wet, cooling trend in tonight's KPBS weather report.
Shaping up to be a quiet day weather-wise across much of Southern California. Dry weather out there, though some clouds really building in, especially across the San Diego area. So not a whole lot of sunshine to be had. At least we did remain dry, but that will change as we look ahead to the day tomorrow. Though current satellite and radar around the area showing these clouds building in from Chula Vista all the way towards Borrego Springs. But as I mentioned, still dry with that high pressure ridge still in control. Though we will see the arrival of clouds and showers as we head into tonight in Mount Laguna. Your overnight low is 44. Cloudy, still dry tonight in Borrego Springs. A mild night ahead with overnight lows back to the mid-60s. 52 is your low in Ramona. Temperatures in Alpine also falling back to the low 50s tonight. Cloudy and quiet in Oceanside with an overnight low of 55 degrees. Clouds building into San Diego. Your overnight low comfortably mild at 62. Looking ahead to the day tomorrow, showers starting to spread their way across Southern California. We're going to see a low pressure system develop off the Pacific, and that's going to facilitate some wet weather across the San Diego area north towards Los Angeles. You'll want to keep an eye to the sky if you're heading out and about. And unfortunately, we have another system on the system's heels. So for the next couple of days, it's going to be fairly unsettled across our area. Here's a look at those details in your 5-day outlook along the coast. A shower or two Thursday, into the day Friday, and occasional rain into the first half of the weekend on Saturday. Still spotty showers in the forecast Sunday and Monday, and temperatures will cool off. We'll go from a high of 70 on Thursday back down to the mid-60s as we look ahead to Sunday and Monday. 5-day outlook inland showing a shower or two Thursday and Friday. Temperatures cool off to the upper 60s. Clouds and occasional rain to kick off the weekend Saturday. Still some showers in the forecast Sunday and spotty clouds and showers extending into your Monday as well. 5-day outlook for the mountains shows a similar pattern with this low pressure system developing off the Pacific. Showers Thursday and Friday, occasional rain and chilly on Saturday with your high only at 49, and more wet weather to contend with Sunday and into the day on Monday. Even the desert area is going to catch some wet weather, clouds and showers for your Thursday with a high of 79. Quick break in the action Friday, and then more wet weather to contend with on Saturday. Temperatures will cool off quite a bit looking ahead to Sunday with a high of 73. Spotty clouds and showers for the deserts on Monday. Steph Davis, KPBS News.
California is tackling greenhouse emissions with its own cap and trade program. It's just one of the many carbon pricing plans being considered by states. EarthFix producer Ken Christensen breaks down the basics of carbon pricing with chickens.
This is Sally. She's like most chickens her age. She'll grow up in a place like this. And that means Sally's hiding something. A carbon footprint. Sally's farm uses electricity from a coal-fired power plant. Her farmer drives a diesel pickup, and her feed comes from a factory that consumes its own electricity and fuel. Now, meet Colin. Colin was raised on a solar-powered farm, eating locally sourced feed. Today, raising Colin is more expensive than raising Sally, because carbon-free energy is currently more expensive than fossil fuels. But someday soon, Sally's carbon footprint could tip the scales. Why? If we want to keep a livable climate, we have to put way less carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. You've got two basic options. You could make a law that limits how much fossil fuels a person or company can burn, and penalize them if they break the law. Sort of like a speeding ticket. Laws like that aren't always popular, though. That's where the second option comes in, putting a price on carbon emissions. Right now, you can put as much carbon dioxide into the air as you like, without paying a dime. But what if people had to pay? Almost 20 countries around the world have adopted a carbon tax. Here's how it works. Companies pay a tax when they buy fossil fuels like coal or natural gas. The price is based on how much carbon is in the fuel. And then they try to pass those costs on to customers. That means with a carbon tax, the cost of raising Sally goes up. And ultimately, when it's time for Sally to go to the great chicken afterlife, it should be easier for consumers to pick Colin for dinner. But a carbon tax isn't the only way to make carbon more expensive. Enter cap and trade. A bunch of countries have tried this too, and so has California. Under cap and trade, Sally's farmer can put as much carbon into the air as he wants. But if it goes above a certain amount, the cap, he'll need a permit. The government only hands out so many of these permits. So if you don't have enough permits for all the carbon you want to put in the air, you can buy or trade for them. Cap and trade supporters say the law gives us more control over emissions. With a carbon tax, we don't know what exactly will happen to emissions, but we have a better idea how much it will cost to try to curb them. Either way, both laws ultimately make carbon more expensive to emit, with the hope that people and companies will change their buying habits. So, how much more will Sally ultimately cost? It all depends on the details, like where Sally left her carbon footprint. In Mexico, burning carbon costs an extra $1 a ton. In California, that same ton costs $13, and in Sweden, $130. In any case, the more pricey we make carbon, the more competitive solar, wind, and other non-carbon-based energy sources become. The question is, who's willing to stomach the cost?
Reporting by Ken Christensen of EarthFix, an environmental reporting project made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
Know the way I feel. Take all the money in the bank. I think I'll just get down to square.
Country music legend Merle Haggard has died. This video is from a performance last October at the Grand Ole Opry. Since then, he was forced to cancel several performances as he battled pneumonia. The California native is probably best known for Okie from Muskogee, and he helped develop the Bakersfield sound, a country genre that had a rougher edge than the music coming out of Nashville. Haggard was 79 years old. Today was his birthday. A 9-year-old reporter is making headlines for covering stories some people feel should be left to adults. Her online news site outscooped the competition with her coverage of a suspected murder in her small Pennsylvania town. Now neighbors and online visitors are questioning whether she should be writing about violent crimes. Here's what she had to say to people who want her to play with dolls instead.
Some of you just want me to sit down and be quiet because I'm 9. But if you want me to stop covering news, then you get off your computer and do something about the news. There, is that cute enough for you?
Now, Hildy Kate Lisak started Orange Street News with crayons. She caught the journalism bug after visiting her dad's newsroom at the New York Daily News. And the San Diego Zoo Safari Park has a new addition, and the little guy may represent a scientific breakthrough to help keep an entire population from going extinct. KPBS video journalist Katie Shulov has more.
Oh, look at him.
A big baby was born at the safari park Saturday, a 125-pound southern white rhino.
He's now out and about in his habitat, staying close to his mother, Holly, and learning to balance on his big feet.
Holly has not had a calf before, so genetically this calf is very valuable to the population.
Zoo scientist Christopher Tubbs is part of the team that's been working for 8 years to solve reproductive problems among captive-born southern white rhinos. The 5-day-old calf may represent success.
Holly.
2 years ago, researchers removed phytoestrogen-producing plants from the rhino's diet on the suspicion that chemical was causing fertility problems. 1 year later, Holly got pregnant for the first time in 10 years.
Scientifically, it's been, we think, a little bit of a breakthrough for us and might give us some ideas on how we can adjust diets here and at other institutions to hopefully increase fertility of the North American population as a whole.
Poaching has been on the rise, with 1,400 southern white rhinos killed in South Africa last year alone. With only 18,000 left in the wild, the zoo estimates the rhinos could be extinct within 15 years.
Now more than ever, we need a healthy population of rhinos outside of Africa.
The new calf is the 95th southern white rhino born at the safari park. He can be viewed from the park's Africa Tram or Caravan safaris. Katie Shulev, KPBS News.
And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you for joining us. From all of us here, have a great evening. Good night.